Hey guys, Carl here, and today I'm going to show you how I color grade in Premiere Pro using Dehancer. So yeah, let's get right into it. Recently I just dropped a short film about my niece, about change, about family, and I used Dehancer to color grade it. I really do appreciate the film look. I've always loved it, something I've always looked to put that feel, that aspect, that aesthetic into my work. Disclaimer, I've used Dehancer before. I've used multiple free trials. Sorry, Dehancer. So Dehancer gave me a month license to practice and use it. All these thoughts, how I do this stuff is all my own opinion. It's how I've learned how to do it and whatnot. They're not paying me to say anything in particular. So yeah, these are all my honest opinions and my honest thoughts. Back to the film, definitely used Dehancer to color grade it, and I think the colors and the feel came out really good. I really like it. I like the way it ended up looking. If you want to watch the film, the link will be right here somewhere on the screen, or I'll probably just put it at the end of the video, or a link in the description, or you could just go on my YouTube page and find it right there. Also, while you're there, if you're new to this page, please like, comment and subscribe. Thank you very much. So yes, let's get into this. So I'm currently in Premiere Pro right now, and as you see on my screen here, I have a shot from the short film that I did. It's just my niece in the bathroom brushing her teeth. So this is without my initial color correction, and that is with my color correction, and then with the Dehancer and a lot that I use just to give it an extra punch. This is going to be the final image. So here's that plain image that I got. You see it's a little dark, so what I'm going to do here, probably just up the exposure a little bit, like 0.4, maybe do a little bit more there. Let's go less, like so. Yeah, so once I do that, once I get like a good idea, hold on, let me get into the color tab here. As you guys know, you want to make sure these guys aren't touching 100, make sure these guys aren't touching 0 right there. So I think that's a pretty good exposure. Then I like to go into the curves here. I'm a big fan of the S curve, so I'll just gently push these highlights up a little bit. When it comes to the blacks and the shadows, I always take this guy down a little bit, and then I push it down just a tad. Just a tad, yeah, perfect right there. And that's all I necessarily do in terms of the curves right here. Now, if I go back to basic correction for HLG3, what I typically do, always put this up to 110. You can see my color temperature. I kind of mess around with it a little bit. I don't want to do too much. Sometimes I use this white balance guy to help me out, and I kind of just go from there. So like that's a little bit too blue for me, so I'll probably just bring that down to like -10. Then the contrast here, probably pull out just a tad bit. Highlights, you can still see it's a little bit dark. The highlights right here, the light parts right here, want to blow those up just a little bit. I think that we can bring this part of our waveform up. Those edges, want to bring those up a little bit, like so. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I'll probably put that like 50. We got shadows here. Now I want to make sure that she is the highlight, the focus of this frame. So I want to darken these edges right around here, just on the sides of the door. So I want to drop down my shadow just a little bit, nothing too crazy, you know? Like 14, yeah, I think that's perfect right there. Again, those whites, just a tad bit, don't want it touching that 100. And the blacks, maybe just a tad there. Nothing too nuts. Yeah, lovely. All right. What I'll also do here in Premiere Pro, I always go to this color wheel, and I'll just bring my shadows down to a little bit of a teal. Nothing too nuts. Right there, midtones. Because Atara, that's my niece, she does have nice, beautiful melanated skin. So I'll just kind of push those highlights and midtones just to bring those out just a little bit. If you want to see it before and after, that was before, and that was after our color grade. Before, after our color grade right there. All right, so now that we're done with that, that's when we bring in good old-fashioned enhancer. What I'll do is just go into my tabs here. I'll grab an adjustment layer. I like to put it on top we're gonna go to our effects tabs. We're gonna type in Dehancer. I'm gonna see right here, Dehancer Pro version 2.1, and I'll plop that guy on there. And as you can see, right when we get on there, it's already changed our image a little bit with that little blue tint and whatnot. The cool thing about Dehancer is really good because it has a ton of different film profiles that you can use. I'm always spoiled for choice. As you can see here, they just have an eclectic collection of different film profiles that we can use. But before we even get there, what's really cool about Dehancer is, depending on what camera and what picture profile you use, it has that option for you to match it so that you get the most accurate reading for the film emulation. I shot this on the Sony A7III and HLG3 picture profile. So first things first, my adjustment editor here, I'm gonna go to the Dehancer, and I'm gonna go to click on input right here. You can see the source here is Rec 709. The cool thing is you can go down here, it allows you to choose a camera, and then I'll go to camera, and now we have all these camera options and picture profiles to choose from. So for me, I'm gonna look for the Sony A7III HLG3, bang, right there, click on that, and then you can see that image. It's kind of looks somewhat similar. If I take this off, kind of similar to the original color correction that I've done right there. It hasn't like changed it too much, which is really cool. Anything over here in this input, I typically don't really mess around with. The defringing, you can enable that. That's basically to help reduce any like bumps and irregularities on the edge of the frame. Next, we have a film developer. Now, I would always enable this because, as you can see in the image here, our contrast is a little bit too contrasty. So we can go in either our initial image or the Dehancer right here. I like to do it in the Dehancer, and I can mess around with how much contrast I want. So if I reset this, is at 0, just bring this down just a tad bit, just so we can see a little bit more of those blacks. So yeah, so the blacks aren't too crazy. So I'm at like -20 right there. Cool thing about this one as well too, we can do a little color boost. That's looking all right so far. Right now, film right here. All right, so I've had a couple of my favorite film profiles that I do like. My favorites, Fuji Pro 400 H. It's just very natural, but it still gives you that film look. Kodak Gold 200. I think this is the one that I used for the actual film. So in the film part, we have the push and pull right here. I don't really mess around with it too much. If anything, for this case, I do like the way it is at just like 1-ish. Yeah, that's cool right there. Next, we've got film compression. And what the film compression does, it redistributes the highlights in the shot or in the frame. The only one that I mess with here is the impact. The higher the value of the impact, the more the highlights are pushed towards the midtones here. If I increase this guy right here, if you look at the highlighted area, so if I drop that value down, those highlights are going to be really accentuated there. But if you bring it up a little bit, you see those highlights are kind of dimmed down and such. So what mine was at 60, and again, for this particular frame, I want the edges to be nice and dark, but in the bathroom, I want her to be the main subject. So I'm actually going to bring this impact down, so probably about like 30. Let's do 25 or 20, I guess. 20 looks good here. Nice. And then the white point here, I mean, you can mess around with that. You can see that guy right there. And let's bring that to about like 60. That's good. Expand. I really don't mess around with expand too much, honestly. I kind of leave it as it is unless I really need to like change the color, but usually I do all of that in the color grading, in the color correction. Same thing with the white point too. So the next one we have is print. With the print profile, it just chooses what your image is being printed on, what type of film is being printed on. So you have some options here. For this one particularly, I just use linear, but I'll just click through these different ones so you can see what they look like. The only thing that I mess around with here again is the tonal contrast and the color density. just to bring those colors out again as much as possible. You can see here as I'm going up and down in the skin tones, right? That's where you really see that change. This color density, I'm just gonna bring that up just a tad bit so we can get a little bit more red, a little more orange in our face, right there. Perfect. I like that. I like the way that's looking. Color head, to be very honest with you, don't really mess too much around with these guys. Next big thing is film grain. That's one big thing that everybody loves, right? That's the main character of the film emulation sort of thing. For film grain, you'll see as we go into it, film grain, halation, and bloom, I customize everything. Here you have your options of the different types of film grain. The lower the number of the millimeter, the harsher the film grain. So you're gonna see the grain a lot more here. The higher the number, the less grain you're going to get. But it's still gonna be present, but just not as obvious as the 8mm. And I'll just go to custom right here. So that was just at the top here. Just click on custom, and then you get the chance to just dial in the film grain as much as you like, right? So you can increase the size. You can blow it up to about like the 8mm size, or you can have it back down to whatever you want. I'll just bust it up just a little bit here, about 20. That looks good. Amount, like how much it's flickering around, I'll drop that down. Don't want it to be too distracting and whatnot. And you could just see, you can change the grain in the highlights, mid-tones, the shadows, all that fun stuff as well too. So I think that's really cool about Dehancer. Next we go to halation. This one I definitely customize because I think people use halation just not in the right way. It just it becomes so obvious that you're just trying to really force this film look, right? And it's just, you find halation in parts where halation shouldn't be. Halation should really be on like the highlights in the lighted parts, not necessarily in the shadows or anything of that sort, but maybe just get a little tint of it. I'll get that guy in, and what I do, the amplify, I always bring that down to about like 30 or 35 right here. As well as the impact, I kind of just drop it down. So just so you can get a little hint of it, it's gonna make your image a little bit more orange. But just in the edges of her hair, you could just see a little bit of those guys, the highlights right there too, just on the edge of the door. I just like that subtleness of the halation, just to stay true to it there. So those are the biggest things that I do in the halation part. Next, we're gonna go to bloom. I do like me some bloom. I don't want it to be too obvious, but again, just to give it that nice subtlety, that nice softness, to remove the sharpness from the digital image as well too, and to still kind of give it that film look too. So again, here I go custom. Biggest thing I do here, that amplifier, cut that down in half, 25 sort of thing. And it's the same sort of thing with the halation. You can mess around with it in the highlights, details like fusion, all that fun stuff. Film damage. Now, typically, for me personally, I don't really want too many dust and scratches and whatnot and stuff like that. That's basically what this is. So if I go custom here, you can see, the amount of hairs right there, scratches, all that fun stuff. And that's really cool. You can go in and just adjust how much you want. But I think for me personally, the grain does a phenomenal job just by itself already. So vignette, again, you can do that guy, pop that in there. It's gonna make your image a little darker. You can adjust the size right there. I don't really mess around with that. Same thing with the film breath. What that's gonna do is just the little jitters. The image would move a little bit within the frame. And that's basically what the film breath is right there. Gate weave, don't really touch. Monitor is pretty cool because you can go in, click on this guy, and the false color right there just shows you just all your exposure. So you can see I'm pretty hot back there, but I want it to be a little hot because I want it to be cool on these edges right here. So that's always cool to see. And yeah, that is pretty much my image right there. Now what I usually do, I do have a couple of LUTs in my program. What I would do, I'll just go on top, I get another adjustment layer, pop that in there, go to my creative profile right here. One of the ones I have here is Bad Boys for Life. Just set that intensity. I usually go to this one a lot because it has a good consistency of orange and blue, the teal shadows, and then the orange highlights and midtones that were adjusting before. So I like to use that guy. And yeah, and that's our image right there. All right, guys, and yeah, that is how I use Dehancer, and that's how I typically color grade in Premiere Pro. Pros and cons of Dehancer. Pros, the options. You have a ton of options from the different film profiles that they give you to emulate, which I think is really cool. Like one day, whenever I want to try something else, there's always something else there for me to try, you know, and that's the cool thing. Another pro that I like is the fact it looks super natural. It looks really good compared to any other film emulation thing that I've used. Dehancer really makes it look like you actually shot it on film. At least makes it really, really close to that fact. I was getting overlays and different, you know, effects and stuff to put onto my image, and it would always just not look right or natural. It just didn't really blend well together, but this plugin does a great job at making everything just feel just right. The only con that I really do have for this is once you apply the effect onto your image, it does change the image, the color of the image. So for instance, if you just wanted to get some halation or you just wanted some grain onto your image, you can't just do that. You have to pick one of the picture profiles, which will in turn change the color of your image or just change the look of your image. If there was a way to just separate that, I think that would be pretty cool. But more times than none, I mean, the picture profiles definitely do help to really push in that film look. But sometimes I just want some grain, sometimes I just want some halation, sometimes I just want the film breath, you know, sort of thing. Other than that, I think it's pretty cool. If you guys are interested in using Dehancer and you are looking for a great film emulation program, I highly recommend Dehancer. Has everything you need and will definitely get the job done. I have a discount code if you guys are interested in purchasing it. Halation gives you 10% off. If you wanted to try it out first, Dehancer gives you the opportunity to do a free 2-week free trial, and that way you can test it out, get some footage. That would be the best way to see if Dehancer is right for you. But I really do think this is the best film emulation program out there. Please use my discount code Halation, 10% off your product. I do get a small contribution from that, but that helps, keeps this channel alive, keeps food on the table, roof over my head, and all that fun stuff. So I really would appreciate it. Thanks guys for coming in. I know I've been getting a lot of these questions in terms of how I color, and I'm happy that I can finally make a video about it and show you how cool Dehancer is. Thanks guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Please like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, have a great day. Peace.